It's time to break up with our banks. Now that Robinhood is not only a full-fledged investing service, but it's also just added a whole bunch of new banking features. It basically has everything that we could need, or at least that's what Robinhood wants us to think. They want us to go through all these new features and decide, break up with Chase, break up with Wells Fargo, leave your credit union behind, get this hot new girlfriend named Robinhood. Plus, they've added some new ridiculous feature that literally no one is asking for, but Robinhood is now offering. So I'll tell you about that too. And of course, because at their core, Robinhood's an investing service, we've also got to talk about their new AI-powered portfolio feature that has finally come to fruition. Like, I have been complaining about the lack of a sort of set it and forget it investing service through Robinhood for years. Why is it taking this long? Nobody knows, but they're finally here. So let's talk about that too. If you're new to my videos, my wife and I officially became millionaires 2 years ago at 36 years old, and we've never made crazy amounts of money. And no, we didn't inherit $1 million. We're just regular people who have been saving and investing for 16, 17 years now. So long, hard journey, but you can get there too. So what are these new fancy banking updates? Well, for those of us that have a Robinhood Gold subscription, which is $5 per month, we're going to have access to Robinhood Banking, which Robinhood is trying to spin as private banking, like a higher tier of banking service and features than you normally get at a normal bank, but without having to pay for the luxury prices that you typically get with luxury banking. They're offering us things like ways to send money to other people in more than 100 countries, estate planning, tax advisor access, 24-hour-a-day support, instant transfers between Robinhood accounts. They're apparently going to be offering accounts for kids with spending controls and allowance options. And allegedly, they're going to have some kind of way that you can link other bank accounts and financial accounts to Robinhood so you can track your net worth. And I'm really curious to see how that works, because I can't imagine that being anything better than the tools that are already out there. But it'd be amazing if they did do that, because then you'd have kind of all of your accounts in one place and an easy way to track your net worth, not just using a spreadsheet like I do. And then you get into this really like bougie, ridiculous kind of banking stuff that I don't think is worthwhile. It's kind of like high profile credit cards too, that you can potentially be able to buy tickets to exclusive events like the Met, Oscars, the F1 Grand Prix in Monaco, the Masters, have access to private jet travel and that kind of thing. I feel like if you're the kind of person who can afford that kind of stuff, the doors will be open to you to spend your money. Like, no one's going, no, you're not allowed to spend tens of thousands of dollars. And even if I'm wrong there, how many tickets are they going to get to something that's as exclusive as the Met Gala or the Oscars or something like that? I mean, 1 ticket, 2 tickets, they're probably going to keep that in-house. It seems like a headline to me. It's not really beneficial to us. The absolute weirdest feature they're bringing out by far, like there is no comparison of how weird this is compared to everything else, because everything else is pretty traditional. You know, give us these kind of premium banking features. Great, perfect, no worries. This, no one is really asking for, unless you're a criminal, and no one else is giving it, because who wants this? Robinhood is going to be offering same-day deliveries of cash to your place of residence. Think of it like DoorDash for cash instead of for food. In what universe is that needed? Like, I get it, sometimes you need to go to a festival or you're going on a trip or something like that and you want some cash. That makes sense. Why don't you just go to an ATM? I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing like with Uber Eats and DoorDash. Like, why don't you just go to the restaurant? I guess it is more convenient, but to me, it just seems like a weird kind of liability to turn any delivery driver into a potential threat for criminals, to have that like handoff be really awkward. I mean, are they going to leave you like an envelope under the doormat? Do you have to sign for it? How does this work? It just seems so strange. Please, if you're the kind of person who's going to use this, leave me a comment and explain the circumstances under which this is like appealing to you, because I don't get it, but by all means, you do you. But Robinhood's strong suit has always been investing. We come to Robinhood to invest, not to necessarily bank. I mean, that's changing as of now, but really they're an investing service. And so they finally rolled out a turnkey portfolio management service that everybody else seems to have. You know, M1 Finance has pies that they can recommend you. Acorns does all the lifting for you in terms of picking where you invest your money. Every big wealth manager like a Charles Schwab or an E-Trade or a Vanguard, of course, has both live people and just preset portfolios you can invest in. Everybody has a means of doing this but Robinhood. And this has been a huge oversight for them, because a lot of people don't want to have to be in charge of where they're investing their money exactly. They want somebody who's smarter than them with more experience, the people who've done the research, to say, look, let me just give you the money and you do the investing for me. I don't want to have to be in charge of it. I don't need to research all these companies all day long or even really understand what this means. I just know I need to be investing, so why don't you do it for me? And Robinhood has strangely decided not to do that for a very long time. For whatever reason, those days are finally over, and they have a Robinhood Strategies service now. This is an automated portfolio service for you. Yes, you have to be a gold member. So you got to be paying $5 a month. And it's pretty much exactly what you think it is. I actually enrolled in it myself, and so I can show you what my account looks like. I think I even screen recorded what it looked like for me to sign up, so you can kind of see what that process looks like. You can also sign up for yourself and see what it looks like. But it's the sort of standard process of any kind of robo-advisor that whenever you sign up, they ask you some questions. What's your income? What's your goal with your money? What's your time horizon look like as far as how long you want to be investing? And then they help you kind of pick a portfolio that makes sense to go along with those goals. Their kind of claim to fame as far as the value that they want to deliver with this service is saying that it's AI powered. And so it's smarter than kind of a fixed portfolio, if you will. Like Acorns, for example, is very fixed. Whenever you say, hey, I want to invest in this way for this kind of time horizon, they pigeonhole you into a portfolio that doesn't really change very often at all. And so it's just a set it and forget it kind of thing. Robinhood is trying to give you the benefits of an active manager, if there are benefits to be had there, for the cost of kind of a passive robo-advisor. And they really want to differentiate themselves between the robo-advisors of the world that are pretty simple and this service that they're offering. And so if you're like me, one of the first questions you ask is, okay, then what does this mean as far as fees go? Because if you're trying to offer me a premium service that normally comes at a premium fee, well, on the face of it, it's not a terrible fee. It's 0.25%. That's still richer than I like to spend as far as fees go. I want to keep my fees around 0.1% if I can. But there's a light at the end of that tunnel too, because for gold members with at least $100,000 in investments, which it doesn't say investments in this account, it just says investments. So we'll have to try and get that like terms and conditions sheet figured out to see if is it $100,000 within Robinhood anywhere or $100,000 in this Robinhood Strategies account, that then it will cap your fees at $250 per year. So 0.25% of 100 grand is $250. But even if you have up and above way more than that, they'll never charge you more, which is a great thing. I love that they put a cap on that. And then allegedly later this year, they're going to debut an AI-powered investment feature called Robinhood Cortex. And the goal with that is to provide real-time analysis and insights to a stock price or to what's happening in the stock market overall. I think this is going to be more and more common in every banking, investing, finance service that we're using. They're going to have some version of their own AI insight kind of a thing. Time will tell how useful that really is. For me, in my life, testing a bunch of different AI type things, some of them flat don't work. Others of them just regurgitate obvious information and give you like a statement back, which is totally useless. Others of them are willing to reach a little bit further and try and derive some kind of insight. And so we'll see where that AI service with Robinhood falls in that spectrum, but I'm going to keep my expectations low for now. For right now, what I want to show you is what it looks like whenever we sign up through Robinhood Strategies. I'll put the screen recording on the screen right here so you can see it. So right there, it said our fees are capped at 100 grand for Robinhood Gold members. And then because I already have an individual account set up with them, I didn't screen record that, I don't think. Then I can show you what it looks like to set up an IRA with them. So this is really cool because if you remember, before, the only kind of pre-baked portfolio that Robinhood would give you was with an IRA. And it was really whenever you first set it up, you could kind of pick what you want as far as a time horizon, and they would guide you into a different portfolio mix of ETFs and stuff. And then after that, it was like up to you to kind of reinvest it in some similar way. Let's say you wanted to follow that program again, you had to be in charge of that. And so now they not only give you the option to do this Robinhood Strategies, where they do all the work for you, they do all the choosing for you in a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and also a taxable brokerage account. So in all the kind of accounts that they offer, basically, they will now do the heavy lifting for you in the choosing. It's amazing. It's a long time coming, but it's good they're finally doing it. So I'm going to say this is the kind of goal that I have for this money. I want it to grow. I'm okay with the highest risk. Let's say I want to retire at 56, which would be great. Okay, this is some kind of generic information in there. Verify it's correct. They're evaluating things. Okay, my portfolio's ready. So I've got 19 years to invest before I retire, and it's putting me into a mix of 95% stocks and 5% bonds, which makes sense. And then there's the first inclination of what they're trying to actually provide with this service. We'll adjust your mix as the markets and as your needs change. So that's something different than, like, let's say Acorns promises. Acorns is really more like, you've told us what you want, put the money in there and forget about it. This is promising a lot more changes along the way, which I think some people will like, and others maybe not so much, but we'll see what their performance is like too, because they're saying things like, we're going to diversify your holdings across multiple categories. They're going to pick things like growth stocks, which is pretty normal. That's an Acorns thing. That's a lot of other investing services will do that. Then they'll also jump into individual stocks. So once you've got over $500, they will selectively choose individual stocks to put in this mix for you. That is unique as far as things I've heard of in terms of a robo-advisor or semi-robo-advisor. Of course, if you've got an active manager, especially if you express an interest, they can choose individual stocks for you and make it happen. But they're going to charge a lot more than 2.25%. This is unique in that it's hands-off, it's low fee, and they're willing to have that level of risk of individual stocks. That is Not something I've seen in this form before. So here's my portfolio that they've chosen for me. 77% US stocks, 18% international, some bonds. And I tried to dive into what are the exact stocks they're going to pick. And they've got some kind of examples in there, Apple, Amazon, Salesforce, that kind of stuff. Some ETFs they might put in there, but they weren't going to give me any more clues as far as what they're going to do. The treasury bills they're going to have in there, just a little bit of treasury bills, tiny bit of cash. And then, of course, they want me to fund my account, which I already have a traditional IRA with them. I've already got a Roth IRA with Vanguard. I don't need another one. I just simply did this kind of setup process to go through it with you so you could see what it looks like. And here's what my managed account actually looks like. So whenever you have your account open, this is what it looks like. This is a taxable brokerage account, just so you know. And you notice right off the bat that it looks a little bit different than your traditional kind of setup with Robinhood. You can look at your little portfolio mix there, and it breaks that down to show you what the kind of things are that you're invested in. It gives you that pie chart view. And if you scroll down, you can also see your portfolio as far as where they've invested the money and how that's changed over time. Because, of course, we're going to have to rebalance, or it's going to have to rebalance for us. Maybe U.S. stocks have plummeted, international stocks have gone up, so that proportion that they originally had targeted is now off. They'll have to do some kind of selling and rebalancing eventually. Oh, one other thing that this new managed investing kind of service does for us is it gives us these little notes. So it's supposed to be a little bit more like interactive than a normal portfolio where you just invest money and forget about it. So if I click on this from March 28th, now that my portfolio is live, let's talk about market conditions. And so it talks about what's been happening lately, what's probably affecting your account value. Like mine's obviously in the red. And so interest rates are high, stock valuations are high, expectations for growth were high back in March, not so much anymore in April. Let's go to the next note. As you might have seen, markets were down 4 to 6% yesterday. I'm not big on stock market news and kind of following the day-to-day trends and movements of things. But if it can be curated in an intentional way like this seems to be, uncertainty has made us a little more defensive. We made some small changes to our portfolio to reflect this. I think this kind of thing hopefully has an effect on people to stay invested, because I just heard a story last week of a friend who saw markets going way down. This was, I think, at the beginning of the pandemic. So he saw markets going way down, worldwide uncertainty. He basically freaked out. Sold his house, sold all of his stock market investments. Now that is 5 years ago, 6 years ago. He's probably lost somewhere between $2 and $4 million based on the net worth of this guy, and missing out on all those gains that have happened since then because he sold out. And so if these kinds of little notes to you can be reminders of, yeah, we see this is happening. We can make adjustments for you. This is normal. You don't have to panic. We just stay invested and we ride it out. Then that stands to increase your net worth over time. Realizing that kind of stuff is the critical psychological difference that needs to be made to keep people invested, to have them grow their net worth over time. Whenever we freak out and sell, that's where we get into trouble, like the friend of the friend. So it talks about whenever the president paused tariffs, what they did, then now it's become more clear tariffs can be negotiated. They reduce my investments in treasury bills. They're essentially trying to make all the moves that a person might make if they were trying to stay on top of this stuff and do it for you. That seems really appealing to a lot of people. I'm not sure that I totally trust them enough to do that in the right way and at the right time to maximize my gains. I think it'll have to be an interesting experiment to go, how does one of my other portfolios compare, let's say year to date compared to this, a year from now, something like that. And we'll be able to do apples to apples and see, is it better to set it and forget it? Or is it better for it to be managed by these people / AI? Hopefully they do a great job. That'd be amazing, but only time will tell. And then a really unique thing here that Robinhood has never had before is this whole new future projection tab. So based on what information you've given it, what you have invested in there now as far as an amount, and the equities and bonds that you have invested in, plus how you have it set up as far as a recurring investment. Are you putting in $100 a day or $100 a year? That's going to totally change the trajectory of your money. Now they're willing to give you a kind of future projection. So because I don't have any kind of recurring deposit set up, I just put $500 in there like a week or two ago, then it's saying my most likely portfolio value in 10 years is about $1,100. And then that yellow bar that goes from kind of the bottom of the screen up to way higher is the total range of possibilities. So they're saying you could be as low as $531 or as high as $2,300 by then. And then you can swipe your finger across back and forth to forecast out further into the future to see what happens in 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, that kind of thing. And at first, that kind of projection tool, I first saw it in that easy to use way in Acorns. And I was like, yeah, of course, anyone can get on an investment calculator and say, I have $500 invested. I'll put in $100 a week. Where will I be in 30 years? Like, that's very obvious. But I don't think it's actually that obvious. I think that's a very helpful tool for people who aren't like me and maybe aren't like you, where they're not willing to bust out a spreadsheet or an investment calculator and do that kind of math. So this way, because it's baked into the service, it's very visually appealing. It's very easy to understand. I think, and I hope people will get a better idea of what it means for them to invest earlier and more often and with more money, because, oh, wow, I can have $1 million by the time I'm 50. That'd be amazing. Or I could have $5 million by the time I'm 50. Then I could retire and buy a Porsche and go, eat burritos all day long at the racetrack. This would be the lifestyle of my dreams. So weirdly, as simple as that feature is, that's like one of my new favorite things as far as what they've offered. And as far as all the banking stuff goes, I think that we just haven't seen enough of it yet to see how it's really going to work out. What are the factors of it that are going to be really comprehensive and value add to us, and what are just kind of boring headlines that don't mean anything. A lot of people are going to click on news articles and think about it because of delivering cash to your doorstep, and I can get F1 tickets to Monaco and whatever. Like, oh, that seems really cool, but it's all going to cost money. There's going to be a fee to deliver the cash. F1 tickets to Monaco have got to be what, 50 grand? It's like these things aren't going to help the average person like me and you to grow our wealth. And so I'm really not going to spend a lot of time and energy on those kinds of things. I want to focus time and energy on the services and the features that do help us to maintain and grow our wealth in a more significant way. So we'll see as the year goes on when those features really roll out and what that looks like for us, because I'm hopeful, I think it can be really meaningful if they do it right, if they roll out the things that we want and need, but we'll see. That'll also be the secret comment word for today's time. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a little thumbs up on YouTube, send it to a friend, and stay subscribed so I can see you guys again soon. See ya. Bye.